Welcome to another edition of our time together that we titled 10 Minutes with Pastor Femi. It's been a wonderful experience. We've been talking together for some days now on some of our contemporary issues and the questions in people's mind. We've dealt with a lot of things and show some biblical perspective to many of these things. And today, I want to also address one of those issues. Recently, during this whole pandemic, I was reading, a national newspaper. I was reading in a national newspaper an opinion piece that was written by a preacher, and at the same time, this guy is a preacher and a social commentator, and he titled the opinion piece that there is no coronavirus in Nigeria. And I was actually stunned, because at the time of reading this piece, we have already recorded over 100 positive cases in Nigeria. We've had about 2 deaths, people who died from the coronavirus epidemic. And the chief of staff to our president has tested positive to coronavirus. We've had about 3 governors tested positive to coronavirus. And we also had the son of a former vice president tested positive for coronavirus. So for somebody to turn around and write in a national newspaper an opinion piece that there is no coronavirus in Nigeria, despite all of this data, actually beats, imagination. But incidentally, the person was writing from as a Christian. So it occurred to me that it is only among Christians that we can have such a thing, where you can have so much fact, so much data, and at the same time, somebody can be saying such a thing that is totally contradictory. There's no other place you make such a statement and nobody will be looking at you as if something is wrong with you. You have a mental problem or something, or you are schizophrenic, or bipolar or something. Something must be wrong with you. But among Christians, it's quite easy to say such things and get away with it. Preachers believe that when you are speaking faith and you are refusing to speak negative, so this is the way to talk. And this particular writer actually was saying about the same thing, because he also narrated how he had a gunshot wound. I think it was robbery attack or something, and the bullet is still in his leg. He said, but God told him that no, you are not shot. And so he believed that he was not shot. And that's quite contradictory, because if you believe that you are not shot, you shouldn't be telling us that you were shot. Because if you wrote that you were shot, you wrote that the bullet is still in your head. That means you know that you were shot. So to now say that you believe that you are not shot really sounds outrageous. And that's the way people talk, because they think that they're not trying to talk negative. You see, we've all been taught about faith, that faith does not focus on the circumstances. Faith focuses on what you are expecting. It focuses on the answer, not on the problem. And then we've also been taught that our words are creative. That words will always produce whatever we are saying. So, and of course, we've also learned that death and life are also in the power of our tongue. So all of those combined together made us to be much more conscious about the way we speak and what we say. So, and then we now think that denying the facts is the same thing as speaking faith. We believe that when we are denying facts, we are actually speaking faith. Because what the preacher was writing about no coronavirus in Nigeria, the title alone shows that he's not talking based on facts. The fact says that Nigeria had death from coronavirus and had a lot of people who have been sick with coronavirus. So the real question is that not acknowledging the fact, is that a show of faith? And we do this a lot, as a people. You hear people talk about that, and by any standard, Not acknowledging fact is like lying. And faith is not about lying. If I have a cut and my hand is bleeding, I cannot turn around and say my hand is not bleeding. I mean, that would be stupid. And anybody that is looking at me will wonder something is wrong with me because I'm basically lying. Because my hand is bleeding, it's bleeding. I need to be able to acknowledge the fact that my hand is bleeding. And if my hand is bleeding, I can't say it's not bleeding. Somebody will always say that, especially when they're broke and they couldn't make a trip or they couldn't pay their bill, they will say that I couldn't come because I was rich. Or, yeah, I was not able to pay my school fees because I was rich. And I think that is contradictory. Because if you are rich, you should have paid your bill. If you are rich, you should have made the trip. You couldn't make the trip, you couldn't pay your bill because you were broke. And that is the reality, the facts around you, and that you are broke. So saying that you couldn't do that because you were rich is the same thing as lying. It's illogical. Somebody will say, I didn't attend the meeting because I was strong. And the reason is because they were sick. But they don't want to say I was sick. They say because I was strong. And they believe that by saying because I was strong, then I'm actually, confessing and talking about faith. It's basically illogical. If you are strong, you will attend the meeting. If you can't attend the meeting, it's because you were sick. So, it's possible as I'm talking now, some people are feeling that, well, if I talk the way you are talking, then I must be speaking unbelief. I think we need to look at that, because really, is that really unbelief? In Romans chapter 4, which is a very classical scripture talking about God, it says that God, He called those things that be not as though they were. And I think that is where we pick up this idea about the way we speak. God called those things that be not as though they were. So we think that we are calling those things that be not as though they were. That means God will call the things that does not exist as if it is existing. Okay, that's the way God operates. And that is the way we should be operating. But that doesn't sound like a lie. Because the scripture did not say, and I need you to notice this, and I'm going to give you about 3 different variations or points about what the scripture did not really say. Number 1, the scripture did not say that God called those things that be as though they were not. So God didn't call the things that be as though they were not. God called those things that be not as though they were. So if I'm bleeding, I'm bleeding. That is the thing that be. I cannot call it as if it is not. Secondly, when God saw darkness in Genesis chapter 1, God did not say, no, there is no darkness here. No, He didn't say that. If He had said that, that would be a lie. When Adam sinned, God did not come on and say, Adam did not sin. No, God acknowledged that Adam sinned. Even though He didn't like it, that's not what He wanted, that's not what He was going to do. But He didn't call those things that be as though they were not. He didn't deny the existence of darkness. He didn't deny that. He went ahead to fix darkness because that is what He wanted to do. But He called the things that be not as though they were. How did He do that? When He got there, there was no light. So He called light. But He saw darkness. He didn't say there was no darkness. But light was what He wanted, that was not there. So He called light. So we don't call the things that be as though it is not. We call the things that be not as though they were. That's the way God operates, not otherwise.